Welcome to the July 7th, 2022 meeting of Northampton County Council. Will Tom Giovanni please lead us in the pledge? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Zumbo, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Kuzic.
Present.
Mr. Giovanni.
Here.
Mr. Gofredo.
Here.
Mr. Heckman.
Here.
Mr. Lott.
Here.
Mr. Myers.
Here.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Here.
Ms. Zirinsky. Here. All present, Mr. Myers by phone.
Thank you. I ask for a motion to approve the minutes of June 16th, 2022. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
No.
Okay, motion carries. I believe that we have a proclamation this evening. Ms. Zirinsky will present a proclamation to the Bangor High School Envirothon Maroon team. So if they would come forward, we'd like to give you that presentation. It's up to you if you want them to come inside or.
Take off my glasses to do this. Okay. So this is a proclamation recognizing the Bangor High School Envirothon Maroon team. Whereas the Maroon team members, Harper Steele, who's the captain, Sarah Knitter, Abigail Dyson, Logan Rush, Matt Vidal, and advisors Josh Thomas and Robert Heckman participated in the 2022 Northampton County and Pennsylvania State Envirothon. Whereas the 39th Pennsylvania State Envirothon was held as a hybrid event in May of 2022, and whereas the 2022 topic areas consist of soils and land use, aquatic ecology, forestry, wildlife, and the current environmental issue of water resource management at the local level. And whereas Envirothon is a state and county competition that encourages the desire to learn more about natural environment and develop a great appreciation for dependence of the natural environment, focusing on awareness of limited natural resources, knowledge of interaction of ecological systems, attitudes of concern to protect the environment, and developing the skills needed to help identify and correct environmental problems. And whereas the Northampton County winner and representative at the state competition was the Bangor Maroon team, and the Bangor team has won the county level competition every year the Envirothon was held since 2016. It's exciting. Whereas at the state level, the Bangor Maroon team placed third overall in the state with a total aggregate score of 507 out of a possible 700 points and ranked first in the wildlife section of the competition. Now, therefore, the County Council of Northampton County hereby awards and recognizes the consistent excellence and 2022 victory of the Bangor High School Maroon team members for their drive and commitment to becoming environmentally aware and action-oriented adults. Yes, I could. Do you want to go around? Do you want to say anything first? Okay, I just want to say congratulations. We have two members of the team here and the advisor, Robert Heckman. And I'm just really excited. This is part of the conservation districts and the work that they do in environmental education. And it's just really exciting to see winners, right? Okay. We can go this way because we can't go that way.
I don't get paid extra. Right in the middle, yep, right in front of council. We could generally get all council in there. Smile, everybody. Good.
Thank you. Next, we have courtesy of the floor. A reminder that it's a 5-minute limit, and I only have one person signed in this evening, a Kelly Ellman. So if you would come down again, You could restate your name and your municipality, and then your time begins.
Hi, so my name is Kelly Ellman. I'm from Penargel. So I had emailed Mr. Hughes, all of you, an email about the per diem situation at Graysdale. So thank you both for getting back to me, but I still felt compelled to come in and talk. So the recent contract for the retention bonus didn't include per diem. Per diem employees are as needed. They have to work 4 days a month. The new contract for ASME now makes them work 6 days a month. So they have to work 6 days a month, including one weekend day. So I was really taken back that per diem wasn't included. I tried to email my ASME president. They never got back to me. I mailed administration. What was the reason? They didn't get back to me. And I want to say a retention bonus is awesome. The employees at Graysdale have been through a lot. We've had work short, and they really deserve it. But I also feel that per diem is a small part of the employment there. There's like only a few employees there. It's not a lot of people, but they all have been there so long. We all work past our required hours. So forgive me, I'm tired, exhausted. I worked a double last night, and I'm going in tonight. I felt the need to come in. So I just have some key points to argue why I feel per diem should be a part of this retention bonus. One, I've worked at Graysdale for 23 years. Only as of May 1st, I went per diem. I've been through both COVIDs. I work full time. I am a Graysdale employee. I am an ASME employee. I worked both COVID outbreaks, and during the COVID, when you guys voted for the COVID pay, per diem got it. Why? Because of their value, and they worked in a facility as well. Per diem, the argument was, I was told by both parties, per diem makes a higher rate. To date, per diem makes $28 as an LPN. That's when I am an LPN. But the truth is, there's other ASME positions in-house that make the same rate as I do. In addition, they get the weekend bonus, and they get overtime after 12 hours. So it's every weekend, 12 hours, but they make the same rate as a per diem, and they get the $3 weekend bonus, which brings them out to $31 an hour. So they are making the same rate as I am. So that rationale to me doesn't make any sense. I was told, well, per diem works less. The truth is, majority of the per diem right now at Graysdale work beyond their 6 days or 4 days a month. There are currently ASME positions at Graysdale every other weekend in different departments that are only 4 days a month they're required to work. Per diems are required to work 6 days a month as of this new contract, and they qualify for the bonus. I just don't understand the logic. Per diem, they say, well, you get a higher rate because you work as needed, you get to make your own schedule, which is very true, I can. But there's not a day that I don't get a call or asked every week, Kelly, when can you work? Why? Because they're needed. And so you have, I'm sorry, I'm nervous. You have, you're contracted out to have agency in-house. They're making 3 times what I am. Why do we have them, even though we don't really want them? Because we need them. Just like per diem is needed. They need the agency to fill the void because they're desperate, they need to fill it. Just like per diem. There's a reason they have per diem, and it still exists because they need them. So per diem exists and continues to be utilized at Graysdale because they are needed, which the recent contract supports this notion. Because per diem wasn't needed, why did they increase their days from 4 to 6? Why? Because they rely on per diem just like they do the weekend bonus or the weekend position and agency. I just don't think it's fair that we are excluded. I don't understand the logic, and they keep saying, well, I was recently told by my ASME head of union that it was Mr. McClure and administration who did not want us to get it. I was told by my administration it was our union who would agree to it. Either way, I felt the need to come and say, please consider per diem. There's only a select few of us. I have a list here. Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 14 per diems I'm aware of. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, including me, 6, 7, 8 work beyond their 6 days a month. So I just don't think it's fair to say that we are excluded. We are there. We are filling the void just like weekends, just like the agency people. So I feel we deserve something. So I'm just here to say thank you for the retention bonus because it's needed. But please consider per diem as well. Thank you.
Is there anyone who didn't sign in but wishes to speak to courtesy of the floor? Mr. Cusick.
I just wanted to follow up on the comments that we just heard. I went back and looked at the resolution that council passed regarding the retention bonuses, and it did not specify or exclude per diems. So I believe that the people that work there should be entitled to this bonus. And again, there was nothing that council passed in that resolution that prevents per diems from participating in the bonus program. Thank you.
Ms. Zirinsky?
So I had responded to Kelly, and I'm not quite sure if you got my email, but from what I understand, the resolution might not have stated that, and I was under the impression that everybody was getting a bonus. And I too agree that it didn't actually say that it was excluded, but the contract that ASME agreed upon did exclude that. And so I wouldn't know how to remedy or rectify that because that has been bargained.
Mr. Gafredo?
Aren't these incentive pays outside of their original contract anyway?
I don't have an answer to that. I thought it was, but I assume you renegotiated
This is
that?
federal
No,
money.
AFSCME insisted that the bonus be negotiated, and it is part of the contract.
But after the fact, correct?
What do you mean after the fact?
We passed it and then you negotiated it after the
Yes, correct. Yep.
The contract specifically excludes per diem from bonuses.
Yes.
There's the answer.
Yes.
And we are talking about, is it true that it's only 14 people?
I don't know. Jen, is
It's roughly about that, yes, maybe a little more. I can get you the exact numbers.
And remind me what the amount was? $2,500 a person?
Yeah,
Yes,
over 4 years.
or 4 years.
$35,000 extra dollars a year.
No, that's over 4 years, right?
Per, yeah. Carrie, did you have a comment or question?
Question, am I hearing this correctly that the per diem were excluded after we already approved it? Is that correct?
No.
That's what we're excluded by their bargaining unit, not by us. Yes? Yeah, sir? Yes, no? Comment?
Yep, good. I just wanted to make sure I was clear with that.
Okay, that's it.
I just don't understand how it's acceptable that we pass a resolution saying we even had to, you remember, we excluded a couple of people explicitly. I don't remember explicitly excluding anybody else, so somehow our resolution got twisted to exclude per diem without our knowledge, which I would like to try to find a way to rectify it after the fact. If that means making a motion to make a resolution to extend that to per diem, with money that remains in that. Go ahead. I don't know how the procedure would work, but I think it's only right that we get the resolution that we originally passed.
I think they would have to renegotiate
Wait.
it.
Mr. Heckman had a question.
I mean, I think we can certainly do whatever we want, but I would guess this is a bargaining unit issue, and as such, even if we passed a resolution, the bargaining unit, at the end of the day, we could agree or disagree on that. And I didn't realize they wouldn't get it. But that being said, once the bargaining unit gets involved and their representative signs off on something or signs on something, that's a management bargaining unit matter. Certainly, I can see what you're saying. I personally don't have a problem with that, but I don't know what the negotiation was with the administration and the bargaining unit, and neither one really has to get into the details with us, I believe. So I don't, you know what I'm saying? I don't disagree with your resolution of intent. We'd like to see this, but ultimately it's a bargaining unit issue, at least as I see it. I could be wrong.
We have an attorney if you want to speak to it or you want to look into it. It's up to, but he's the,
We need to be cautious here. This is, I haven't seen it, but there is a CBA, correct? Collective bargaining agreement that binds both management and the bargaining unit governed by federal law. So we may be stepping in ground here that is very unstable for us.
Can Mr. Spadoni define, what is it called, unfair labor practices? Is that what that would be called?
There are procedures under the CBA as well as federal law that the bargaining unit can take, but we cannot individually negotiate with members of the unit.
Right, isn't that called unfair labor practice?
No.
It's something that I would advise not to do. I don't know if it's an unfair practice.
I think the legal term is we can't do it.
Yeah, the legal term is we can't be the bargaining unit as the council. That our resolution is not the binding agreement, that the contract that was bargained is the legal contract. Okay.
The import of what I'm trying to say is we need to respect with great validity the collective bargaining agreement.
Right, okay.
Can I speak for 1 second?
do I allow you to double dip?
I just want to quick say, which I
I-
didn't mention, I'm sorry.
You get at least 30 seconds because we're not
Okay,
allowed double. dip.
Tara emailed me back. She had a conversation with Mr. McClure. He says that he initially offered it and the union said no because he wanted to do a separate agreement. The union say Mr. McClure outright said no. That's why I came here, because there was no definitive answer who determined. So I just
Well,
came to use.
What I'm saying to you and what I'm hearing now, because we're asking these questions, and I heard very clearly that we all voted for it. It's not exclusionary, but it wasn't stated. But I heard from Mr. McClure and from Jen that your bargaining unit refused it. And so that to me is the answer, no matter who plays he says, she says.
Okay.
But that's the facts that I'm hearing.
Right,
that
which I knew.
exists.
I just thought maybe there was something that you could do for us, because I think it's absolutely unfair. That's it.
No,
Thank you.
thank you for coming, though. I appreciate it. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak to courtesy of the floor? Okay, I need to ask for a motion to adjourn for an executive session.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposition?
You can note that, I think you have to note the time.
I note that we're leaving at 6:48 PM for an executive session for the purposes of pending litigation.
All right.
So how's it going, Chris?
Guess what? I still met Fest. I met straight. This is why I'm not. I don't think he's married. I think he has a baby with wife.
Thank you, Charles. Yes.
If it was a short slight from the back, For what? Which Dixie? How about it? Yeah. Well, we also did, we also did the. Oh, it looks like ours, yeah, across the street. Said the Lamont. Was that Morgan Ellis case?
No, that was,
Oh, Morgan Ellis got a jury out.
yeah, well, the jury just came back in like 5. So that's all.
So it depends. At night it can get cold depending on. Marine it. But yeah, it gets farther. So this was the video, the gap of the, this is me going down my side. So that's going down into the lake. So if you're like, so it looks like you're going into the lake. Now, the great part, the hard part is, I went through that, dropped it off at Ward, what they call Ward Transit Cats. So they drop you off at this old, like an hour rest stop. But there's no place that is Ward Transit. And then you go, ride the gap of the there's 3 flat, and then you go up. He's trying to snowboard. When you get to the top, it's a 6-mile ride and like 2 miles down. And he'll ride it down the hill. And it's really great. And then it's relatively flat. Depends. It just depends where he wants to be. But the beach part is it takes too long. But he wants to get them to do his work. I can get you there in a half hour, but that's not fun. So they take you on this hour and they silent boat ride. So it's pretty difficult.
Yeah, and we're like, have nothing, these people like articles.
Dublin is. We went to it, we stayed at this place, so in the Liberties it's called, so they call it the Rebel Liberties, because it's where like a lot of the Protestant uprising and a lot of the other stuff happened, so, but it's now all gentrified, and so it's really nice there now, it's getting all those long hotels by Marriott. I didn't mean to call that so much. And they had all this great stuff, like, we do need an answer, so we have to there, and then stop there, and then you're not really far, like it's like maybe just go to Greek people, who care? And they do have Uber Europe now, but there's like this taxi app, so we use that. So like for the Muslims,
Yeah, I'll show you. Yeah, she went by.
yeah. It's that yeah, Delaney is burning to it because she has to do it past the judge, what's been aggravated. So she has to speak Gaelic, so she knows like a couple key phrases in Gaelic now. And yeah.
Is that like voluntary?
So she'll get paid for it, and when she gets older. But like still working a lot. You know, the term gibberish. Like during the potato famine, which was over, there was Gaelic. They didn't understand English, and it does really sound. It doesn't sound. The tone is very different. It's not even like Nordic or Russian. It's very like different, just different, and it doesn't even seem Scottish. And it doesn't, like, you know, when they say an Irish accent. Have you participated in any of the registrar meetings yet or anything? No. Anything coming up? Where's it at? When I was in New Orleans, we went to New Orleans for our that was interesting because they're, yeah, that's east. Yeah, southeast winter. They have cooling shelters this summer. Are you gonna go? Just have air conditioning on so people can get out of the heat. So, because we went to St. Louis Cemetery, which is a bad idea in the afternoon in Louisiana. So when we did that, it was like, they just let us go into the church where all the people were sleeping because it was hot. Yeah, oh, it was so bad. Oh, but during COVID, we were gonna do this whole Italy. Is there a group under CCAP umbrella? They have their own group?
Yeah, it's very much. Have you ever played like
Aaron's aunt, my wife's aunt Patty. My wife's aunt. That's better.
Yeah. No, it is much better than.
Going back and forth for 20th anniversary. I keep saying we go to an island, but Aaron's like, oh, go to Florence, go to Venice, go to that, you've always wanted to do that. And I have always wanted to do that. But I and Charles and Ricky are great. They're just tremendous assets to rely upon because they've been doing it for so long. I mean, you really don't need to remake the wheel. The wheel is made.
Oh, the wheels on the bus.
It'll get resolved.
Except for those yellow emblems.
It's 7:08. We're returning from executive session. No action was taken, and we discussed potential litigation. Now moving on to the county executive report. Mr. McClure, do you have a report for us this evening?
Very briefly, the human body is constantly making new blood, and it's important to do that for our overall health and well-being, and that's true of administrations as well. And tonight I want to introduce some new folks who are going to be working for Northampton County. And first, I'd like to introduce, and if I say your name, just stand up briefly and wave at our governing body, please. Nicole Faree. Nicole is our new Deputy Director for Human Resources. My great friend and the legendary Bob Donches decided he wanted to try retirement full-time, so we needed someone to fill those shoes, and Nicole comes to us having previously been the Managing Assistant Director, Human Resources, Kane University in Union, New Jersey. Before that, she was the Director of the Bureau of Audit Investigation, Office of the New York City Comptroller, New York, New York. Before that, she was Director of Executive Affairs. These all sound very impressive, Nicole. Director of Executive Affairs and Planning, Office of the New York City Comptroller, and Director of Executive Affairs and Scheduling, Office of the Manhattan Borough President. So not only does she have human resources experience, she's got extensive big city government experience. I'd next like to introduce to you Mark Hartney's replacement, Mark Tominik. Mark is a graduate. He has his master's from Lehigh, and see, Lehigh, there's the Lehigh guy there. And his undergrad from Muhlenberg. He most recently comes to us from the city of Easton, where he was working as the Economic Development Coordinator. So we welcome Mark, and Tina is really looking forward to putting him to work. Miss Olivia Britt is going to be a paralegal in the solicitor's office. Miss Britt is a graduate of the Lehigh Carbon Community College paralegal program, an ABA program, and we're really looking forward to having her working with us. And last but not least, and he's only last, probably one of the new hires you're most interested in, but he's in the career service, so he was last here, is Christopher M. Caminini. Christopher is our new registrar of elections in Northampton County.
Wow, okay,
Yep.
great.
And he comes to us most recently from being a supervisor at Wind Creek. So he has a great deal of experience being responsible. So if a casino's going to let you be responsible with their money, we can let you be responsible with our voting machines. So we're very, very happy that they're all here with us. Any questions? That concludes my report.
Yeah, one, quickly. While we're talking about personnel, Deputy Nursing Home Director.
I will have news, Jen will have news for you the next time you see her, and I think it's going to be good news.
Awesome.
We have made an offer, I haven't heard back.
Any other questions for Mr. McClure? Thank you.
New blood, thanks.
Moving on, we have some old business. I'd like to make a motion to untable the consideration of Administration American Rescue Plan funds for public health and safety, the air sampling stations resolution. Is anyone willing to make the motion to untable?
I'll make a motion.
Anyone willing to second?
I'll second.
Mr. Cusick, we need a vote on the motion. Does anyone want to discuss it? Do we need to discuss the vote on the motion?
Just take it off the table first.
Oh. You-
Sorry, that's true.
Yeah, let me do my.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman. Mr. Lott.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Motion passes by a vote of 9-0.
Thank you. Ms. Zirinsky, will you reintroduce the resolution, or introduce the resolution?
Whereas the county executive and county council have identified the need to engage community stability to lower the impact of COVID-19 on the citizens of the county, whereas the Northampton County executive identified the need for the certain projects that are eligible to be funded by the American Rescue Plan funding, whereas the Northampton County executive has identified the needs that have not been budgeted previously to ensure public health, safety, and welfare, whereas the citizens of Northampton County will benefit from these programs, helping citizens of all ages survive and thrive in Northampton County. Now therefore be it resolved that the County Council of Northampton County hereby authorizes the county executive to expend the amount of $50,000 for the placement of air sampling stations around Northampton County.
So, all right, there's discussion, open for discussion. Does that need to be amended, I think?
To what?
The actual numbers on what we received are different from the 50,000. Because I did, I did request further information.
So they're $52,980, that's budgeted as project costs, but what they had asked for was $50,000. So do you want to give them an extra $2,980?
Well, I think that needs to be part of the discussion. That's what we're, do we, because this was, gratefully, thank you for providing this in there. Dr. Holland and Ms. Winchin are here to answer any questions that we have, but the original bid was $52,980. So do we need to amend that?
Do you want a motion to amend it?
If you're so inclined,
I'll make a motion to amend it
to that amount?
to $52,980.
Second.
Thank you. John Cusick.
May I ask a question? Do they still want the 252.9 as opposed to the 50?
Well, I assume if that's the bid that they submitted, which is what I asked for, that's,
They
I
submitted
asked for the
sheet here,
actual
it is.
bid that they want, and I asked for all the details, and that's the bid that was submitted.
Okay.
I mean, they're not asking for,
All right.
millions, they're asking $2,000, $3,000. So, any other discussion on this motion? Call for the vote on the motion to amend the resolution.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Lott.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Motion passes by a vote of 9-0.
Thank you. Now let's have a discussion on the amended motion. Amended resolution, thank you. As I write the numbers. Yes, Mr. Cusick.
Sure, I'll just say that I did have some concerns regarding the lack of detail with the consulting aspect of this project, but I did have some email correspondence, and I think I've been provided with enough information that I can now support this. Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Mr. Gafredo?
Aside from the same concerns I share with Mr. Kusick about how the money would be spent, my major, I guess, question would be, assuming we do this study and we find out that we have air pollution, which I'm sure we will find out that we have, what would be the proposed, what are we gonna do about it? I think we're gonna be spending money in an area that we already spend that money in, the state spends that money, the federal government spends that money to tell us all kinds of information about our pollution. And I don't know what this $50,000 being spent in the same area is gonna accomplish, and then what those goals would end up being. What are we gonna tell people, to drive less, to go to work less? I just feel like if we do this, to what gain? And that's why I'm asking the question to either of you ladies, to Mr. McClure, who I'm assuming brought this about us. So what is the end game?
Well, do you want to address it to the?
Yeah, I would like
first, and
to
then
hear
Mr.
what they
McClure?
believe this could
Because
accomplish.
I thought we did address that in the past, but maybe got lost in translation. so-
Yes, excuse me, I'm Andrea Witchen from iSpring, and this is Dr. Breener Holland from Lehigh University. I believe we explained that actually in thorough detail in the proposal for the project. We actually approached this from the standpoint of the fact that there has not been any movement or any forward motion on issues like this in, I don't know, 15 years.
Give me an example of the movement that you would like to see personally.
So if you look at the project proposal, and just so that I don't misspeak, there is actually a section that says the expected project outcomes. And a number of these refer to simply the data that we will acquire. But the proposals the future that we see for this is that it will provide information to support recommendations to reduce emissions and mitigate air quality problems in specific geographic areas of the county. As I explained when I was in front of the Finance Committee before, there are only currently 2 monitors that are manned and controlled by the Pennsylvania DEP and the EPA in the entire Lehigh Valley. Our project would put 20 monitors in Northampton County and an additional 20 in Lehigh County if they approve the same proposal. This allows us to put monitors in much more close proximity to the sources of mobile pollution, which is the other significant difference between what this project would do and the kind of readings that we get regularly from the state and federal government. Those are readings that are particularly designed to determine pollution based on stationary sources. So, for example, I had mentioned before that the cement plants in Northampton County do produce the particulate matter 2.5 that we are concerned about, but they are stationary. And so they are easily calibrated and determined based on a stationary monitor. But there's only one in all of Northampton County. We are more concerned about the pollution that is being created by the increased truck traffic that is created by the increase in the development of warehouses in Northampton County. In order to monitor and acquire data on that kind of pollution, we need monitors that are placed much closer to the sources of the pollution, which means close to the highways, especially the highways over which the most of the truck traffic travels. So this will give us data that we have never received in this particularity from either the state or the federal government. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, what do you do? We will also have a second set of monitors, just 2 of them, which we will move around throughout the year, which will help us make the correlation between that particulate matter 2.5 and carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide and nitrogen dioxide, which are particularly diesel emissions, so that someone who would be reviewing this report could not come back and say, well, this is just the PM 2.5 that's all over the place. No, we will be able to tell whether when there's an increase in the CO and the NO2 in that area, there is a concomitant increase in the PM 2.5, which lets us begin to make a correlation between the diesel output and the PM 2.5 output. Once we have that information, and this is why we worked with Attorney Elliott on this, then the question is, what do you do with that information? And one of the things that this kind of information can provide is substantiation for municipalities to write into their codes requirements that ask people who want to develop land how that development will impact the air quality in the area. And the way that that would apply to, say, a warehouse is if you have to do a traffic impact study, which I believe is required in most of the municipalities in the area, it gives you some idea of how many additional trucks will be running over those roads. Now the question is, well, you already have this amount of pollution, PM 2.5, in that area. Now if you add X number of trucks in that area, how is that going to degrade your air quality? Now municipalities would have the ability to provide conditions, for example, for the building of warehouses that would limit either the size of the warehouse or the number of trucks that could visit per day. And our hope in doing this for the county is that the county would be able to take the lead in helping municipalities determine what those kinds of appropriate, for example, model ordinances that they could adopt into their municipalities' codes that would then allow them to more stringently control how much pollution is being put into their air because of the increase in the development of buildings that need to be serviced by diesel trucks. Is that clear enough?
Yes, it was clear. And
Okay.
you said a lot of things I was expecting you to say. I just want to make a couple clarifications. The 2 monitors that are currently in the Lehigh Valley, those are much more sophisticated, much more expensive, correct?
Correct.
The 20 that you will be getting, our county employees will be then placing and moving around, not you. We will be doing that, correct?
Actually, once the purple air particulate monitors are in place, they don't need to be moved.
Okay.
And secondly, the more expensive ones that we will be purchasing, the 2 more expensive ones, those we will be moving around. Our Lehigh technical people or students will be, and we will be overseeing the movement of those.
Okay. I guess in closing, I understand the big hot topic is warehousing and truck trafficking. And if you're not somebody that relies on that, if you're not a truck driver, if you're not a heavy equipment operator, if you don't work in those warehouses, these might just seem like inconveniences to a lot of people. But a lot of people depend on these jobs. And as somebody that does depend on those jobs and have a lot of people that work for me that do depend on those jobs, it's getting to a point where we're starting to feel like second-class citizens just for driving a diesel truck. These things that we do, drive trucks to warehouses for products, they're because people are buying things in these warehouses. Every single person here, I'm sure, is doing that. So yes, it's a high demand because we are demanding it. And if we start making ordinances that restrict that, we're handcuffing what the market is already demanding. So for that reason, and because I'm still not really thrilled with how the breakdown of costs work out, I will be voting no for this ordinance.
Could I also point out that one of our other...
Just a minute.
Excuse me.
Just a moment, please.
I'm sorry.
Does anyone else on council have question or comment? But
I just have a comment.
okay.
I think, I just want to say that at a time when the EPA is being gutted and the DEP is just understaffed, and we're looking at 2 monitors in this area, that I'm really proud of this collaboration and the potential that this could have on the county to actually be able to address air pollution. Because it's not that we're going to take jobs away or threaten jobs. What we are going to do is we're going to make a safer environment for people with COPD, asthma, respiratory problems, and we already have truck traffic. We understand it. We understand that there are jobs here, but we can do things to make this area safe for everybody. We're reaching warehouse saturation. And I think we need to have something to allow municipalities and the county to empower themselves to be able to say, we need to put the brakes on this. No one's taking the jobs away. Those jobs will be here, but we can protect ourselves and put boundaries around further development and proliferation of these warehouses. They're already on the books. We know they're coming. We have to know how that impacts our families, our friends, our neighbors, our children. This is important because it's not just about today, it's about the future. So I will definitely be supporting this.
So may I ask a question? I want to get back to what my concerns were, and I first wanted to say thank you for revising this and giving us the information we have. There's some names on here that there's no veta, and I just want to clarify who they are. Dr. Albert Presto.
Yes, there's a
Is
link
he a
on there.
colleague of you, Dr. Holland, or no?
He's at Carnegie Mellon Institution.
You want to speak in the mic? I'm sorry.
Carnegie Mellon.
He's at Carnegie Mellon. He is, they have it's called the Center for Atmospheric Particle Studies, and he is the person there who knows the most about purple air monitors. So he is the one who's been publishing the research from purple air monitors and also working with a lot of people in Pittsburgh to set up their vast network of purple air monitors. So he's not a colleague in the sense that he's not here, but I have been in dialogue with him about our project, and he is the person I think who's most appropriate to advise on designing the research study, like where specifically the monitors should go, and other things like the calibration of the monitors, because of course we would need them to be giving us the same quality of data, even though they're much less expensive monitors that the EPA monitors give us. We want to have them the sort of high quality data that's just in areas we expect to be hotspots for pollution to see how bad it really is. And he's somebody who can tell us how to do that the best.
I just want to, and again, I'm not doubling back on the merits of this. I just have very specific questions, and you don't, Jeremy Mack is whom?
Just to say, there's a link in the revised proposal to Dr. Presto's vita and information at Carnegie Mellon, and also Jeremy Mack's information, but I'll let Brina speak.
But he is Jeremy at Lehigh, or is he with?
Lehigh.
Okay, so he would be doing the data collection and advising the students, or no?
I will be advising the students. He'll be helping with the organization of the data and the visualization of the data. He's a data visualization specialist.
And it says, this says your equivalent one summer. Are we running out of time here, or it does,
Yes, we're running out of time. So
summers.
Yeah, it's a problem. It may push the project back, and I'm planning to integrate a lab into classes in the fall so I can try to get some students to help, but there's only so much students can do. They can analyze data, gather data, but we have to actually get these things installed, so it's going to put pressure on that part of the project.
Well, again, I just wanted to apologize to the inconvenience to both of you, but we did not have this, and I do appreciate this because it helps me, and I wish we would have had this sooner because this would have been done 2 weeks ago. But thank you for your indulgence and your patience. And Mr. Heckman.
I just wanted to call for the vote.
Oh, call for the vote.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo.
No.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Lott.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
No.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
And Mr. Giovanni.
No.
The resolution passes by a vote of 6-3.
Thank you. Is there any other old business to discuss? Moving on to new business, there's an introduction of an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Authorizing a Lease Agreement for the Continued Rental of Tower Space by the County of Northampton at 121 Sitgreaves Street, Easton, Northampton County, Pennsylvania, from Industrial Communications Company." I need someone to sponsor the ordinance. Mr. Giovanni, I need a second.
Second.
Myers.
Mr. Myers. The public hearing, debate, and possible vote will be held on the July 21st, 2022 meeting. Next, we have the consideration of administration of American Rescue Plan funds for community sustainability projects resolution. Mr. Lott, will you introduce the resolution?
Sure will. Whereas the county executive of the county council has identified the need to engage community stability to lower the impact of COVID-19 on the citizens of Northampton County. And whereas Northampton County executive identifies the needs for certain projects that are eligible for funds by the American Rescue Plan Act funding. And whereas Northampton County executive has identified these needs that have not been budgeted previously and will enhance housing and food initiatives. And whereas the citizens of Northampton County will benefit from these programs helping citizens of all ages survive and thrive. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the County of Northampton hereby authorizes the county executive to engage in the following community stability projects, sustainability projects. First, Habitat for Humanity Affordable Housing Project, $2 million. Western Area Food Bank, $300,000. Senior Home Maintenance Program, $250,000. So introduced. And to add to that, this was discussed in the Economic Committee meeting earlier today. Thank you.
Any discussion? I have a concern, as I always do, that there's 3 combined here. And I have to say that I was not present and available for the Habitat for Humanity. And I think it's an important project. So I'd like to make a motion to break out the 3 and vote on them individually.
Second.
Vote on the motion.
Ms. Fargo Hefner,
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo,
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic,
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Heckman,
Sure, yes.
Mr. Lott, Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Motion passes by a vote of 9-0.
Okay, so first we'll take the Habitat for Humanity Affordable Housing Project for $2 million. Is there discussion or questions on this?
Did we ever find out what the total cost of the project with the houses was? I think we were just talking about land acquisition before. Could you speak to that, or Mr.
Yeah,
McClure,
whoever
would you
the-
be able to speak to that?
So I can tell you, based on Habitat's costs of what it's right now costing us to build a house, if we were to do 65, they're costing us about $150,000 to build. That's with the increased development costs and materials costs. But the actual project, it's, for the land acquisition is 2.3 million, and then building homes on the property.
And who pays for the building of the homes? Habitat for Humanity?
We do.
100%, or does the county pay part of that as well?
We usually apply for grant funding through the county, so that would be part of it as well. But the county would also, I don't know if Tina wants to speak to this too, we wouldn't be in charge of building all 65 units.
I'm going to ask you to give us a brief description of the, because again, I apologize, I was not here
Sure.
for your thing. I don't have any supporting documentation, and I think there were other council members that were not in attendance at that meeting. So if you don't mind giving us a brief synopsis of what this money is for, because some of us didn't get to hear that.
Sure. So just to backtrack, a little over a year ago, we were reached out to by a landowner in Forks Township. The person owns the 2T's golf course, mini golf. There used to be a driving range on it. It's a little over 11.5 acres of property. And he has a love for Jimmy Carter, so he came to Habitat for Humanity. He wants to leave a legacy. He's asking for $2.3 million for the property. They did have an appraisal done, but they are having a new appraisal done. And it has already gone through Forks Township zoning for 65-plus units. Right now, they're set up as townhomes. And, again, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I think, for both Habitat and the county to be a part of an affordable housing units or communities such as this one. We all know living in the valley, there's not much more land out there to build up. And so when we build ourselves, we get lots that maybe we can do 4, 6, 8. We've never had an opportunity where we could do 65. And in partnership with the county, I really think that this is a really huge opportunity for all of us to provide affordable housing. And during COVID, we saw an increased number of people coming through our doors looking for affordable housing. We see that the Lehigh Valley is being built up, rents are increasing. There really is not enough affordable housing throughout the Lehigh Valley and in Northampton County.
So every unit would be in affordable housing.
It would be mixed income.
So what's the percentage?
So Habitat, about 50% would be affordable housing.
And the rest?
It would have to be mixed use because you'd have to be able to, or mixed income, because you'd have to also bring the income back in to keep the project going.
Mr. Gafredo?
You said they're in the process of getting another appraisal? What if the appraisal comes in $300,000 or $500,000 cheaper? Wouldn't it be wise for us to be prudent to wait for that appraisal to come in before we go?
So we have to remember that $1 million of it right now is based on an in-kind that's being given by Habitat, but that is also based on the appraisal. So once that comes in, the difference wouldn't be the cash difference, it would be the in-kind that's being provided to the landowner.
I'm confused about that. Could you clarify that?
Sure. So right now the request is 2.3 million. The 1 million would come from the county, the 300,000 would come from Habitat, and then the other $1 million is being given to the landowner as an in-kind tax deduction value. So if the land development comes in or the appraisal comes in lower than that, that would not be deducted from the cash that's given, it'd be deducted from the in-kind that's being given to the landowner.
I have a question. So did you just say that the Northampton County contribution is 1 million? So why on this resolution is the request for 2 million?
I'm going to let Tina answer that one.
It's okay. So as we talked about in Economic Development Committee meeting, we need the $2 million. The $1 million would go to purchase the land, correct? The other one is going to be able to get that land ready for development. So we need to put RFPs out for construction folks. We need water lines put in, we need electric, we need to make sure that all the utilities are hooked up. And then once that is ready for development, then we can start the actual building process. And so any of that excess money is going to be what we need to help start physically building these homes.
Right, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Because the way that you phrased it before, it made it seem like Habitat was doing an in-kind of $1 million. The acquisition was $1 million, and then 300,000 was coming from Habitat. So you're asking for $2 million from, or for, an acquisition for $1 million, and then $1 million to prepare the land with all the necessary utilities and hookups and all that kind of stuff.
And start the actual building, correct?
Got it,
Yes.
awesome. Thank you for that clarification.
And I'm sorry, I didn't get your name before or now, so I apologize.
Jessica Elliott, Executive Director at Habitat Lehigh
Thank
Valley.
you, Jessica. I might have met you before, but thank you for repeating, because as I learned earlier this evening, I'm very old. Any other questions or concerns regarding
I have a
this?
question. Your mother's Diane?
Yes.
That's all, thank you.
That was a very important question. Thank you, Mr.
Of course it was, it's a connection.
Madam President,
Yes, sir?
I have a question or two. Tina mentioned that they're going to cut utilities, and what exact utilities are they cutting in when they need this extra money for? What, name the utilities. Is this going to be electric and water, or what are we doing here?
Did you hear?
Everything we need for the housing units to sustain themselves. So we have to make sure that the water lines are in there. We need to make sure that electric is in there. Sewer, their heating source. If it's not electric, there's UGI is already in there. So all of those easements.
Okay, that's one of the questions. I want to make sure that we cover gas, not only just, electric. The other comment I'm going to make on this is, as saturated as people think we are, we don't have enough affordable housing in the eastern area. what's coming in, what people are buying now are paying way above what they are and what people that live here can afford. So just the thought of we getting more affordable housing for those folks that, have a chance of buying their first home and doing well, I'm behind that thought. So, I just want to put my 2 cents for that.
Can we call for the vote?
Call for the vote.
On the affordable housing only. Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni?
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo?
Yes.
Mr. Heckman? Mr. Lott?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
This portion is adopted by a vote of 9-0.
Next, we have the Western Area Food Bank. Any questions or concerns? I believe that was presented again. Do you want to come up and just answer some questions of anybody who wasn't here? Or you want to give a brief synopsis again?
We can give the overview once again. So this is to satisfy some of the food insecurities that we currently have in the western portion of the county. And this specific project will be working with Northampton Area Food Bank. And we have Allison Zapp, who is the Executive Director of Second Harvest, here to answer questions as well.
Are there any questions from council regarding this matter? Good idea. Call for the vote.
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni?
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo?
Yes.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mr. Lott?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
This portion is adopted by a vote of 9-0.
And finally, we have the Senior Home Maintenance Program for $2,500. $250,000.
What did you
Told you I'm old. Next. Any questions or comments regarding this program?
Can I get a better explanation of that program, please?
Sure.
I'm Chuck Weiss. I'm the Associate Executive Director of Housing for CALV. This will be a program that is directed specifically toward low-income seniors to do home repairs such as roofing, heating systems, hot water heaters. Also, while we're in there doing checkups on electric, lead problems, any lead problems, and doing mobility if there's money available to that. So mobility would be including like high-rise toilets, grab bars, maybe a handicap shower, opening doorways a little bit wider so wheelchairs can get through, or putting up chair risers upstairs and things like that. The goal of the project is to keep seniors at home, aging in place, and relieving the cost burden, which many of the seniors we're serving are averaging about $1,600 a month in income. And our new roof will cost anywhere between $8,000 and $12,000. So it's a pretty important program. We have a lot of people on a waiting list already for this program, and we'd love to be moving forward with it.
How old is a senior in your definition?
My wife calls me a senior.
No, I haven't. Qualify, yes. 65?
I think it's 65 and over.
65.
What's the, Madam President,
Yes.
is there an income based on this?
Yeah, it's, I think it's 85% median income,
85% median income?
but I would say the majority of the people we're serving are 50% or lower.
Yes, sir.
I know I've asked this before, but I'm just curious, what is the current median income that we're all basing this on? I know it comes from the Fed, but if you don't have it available, don't worry about it.
We actually do, and it was, Frank is getting it, but it was, we gave you that paper as part of the packet this evening, because we knew that question would come up, so.
Yeah, go ahead, Frank. You can just tell me. I'm just curious. If I have the paper, I'll look for it. I just thought you might know. Just tell me.
So,
73,000?
the total, there's a total median income per family, and then there's rates for like individuals. So if you're like, I know that we sell our homes, our low-income homes to people at 85% or lower, and that means a single person making roughly $50,000 a year could buy that home. And that income would go up if there's dependents.
Right. So two-family, very low income, 36,250, that's a two-person. If you're looking at 80%, it's 58,000, just to give you a rough idea. And I'll circulate the income documentation for everybody.
If you gave it to me, then I'll look for it. I hadn't seen. I'm just curious because I'm always interested in how they come up with. Personally, I always think they go too high. I mean, I'm based on income. I know lots of people who always seem to make a lot or under that number, but who don't qualify for things.
It's interesting because I would say that we rated it at 85% because that's what the HUD is telling us to do. So, but I would say the majority, especially in our senior programs, it's far less than that. There's most people are living just on Social Security that we're serving.
Yeah, I mean, and this isn't this group, I'm just saying, when they, I know the chamber, others come up with these numbers, and I'm thinking, good God, I don't know, are they just going to the traditions of America senior sites? Because, it seems like the numbers are high, but yeah, thank you, I appreciate it, thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Any other comments or questions?
No.
Call for the vote?
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Lott.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Brown. Yes. Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
That portion is adopted by a vote of 9-0.
Thank you. Next, we have the I have to vote on the resolution as a whole.
Great.
Call for the vote.
Mr. Lott.
I don't think you have to vote.
We voted on the pieces. She stated that I need to vote on the entire resolution.
What happens is we vote on each section separately. So if one was not voted, voted down, we still have to vote on the resolution as a whole because the resolution itself includes all three of them.
Thank you. Always want to know what you're voting on.
I don't know.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes. What do you need to know?
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 9-0.
Thank you. Next, we have the consideration of amended term sheet with ASME Graysdale resolution. Mr. Heckman, will you read the resolution?
Sure, I have no problem doing that. In fact, I'm putting it in front of me right now in anticipation of what I'll be reading. All right, thereas, Northampton County Charter, Section 202, Paragraph 12, provides that the county council has power to approve any collective bargaining agreements with officers and employees. As of July 1st, 2022, county council received a term sheet of amendments to the contract between Northampton County and the ASME Graysdale. Now therefore, it is hereby resolved by Northampton County Council that the attached term sheet shall be approved the 7th day of July 2022. I'm sorry, my mic was off. Should we read that?
Yeah, maybe just a little bit.
All right, let me read the, now, it's about the, now therefore, here, it is hereby resolved by the Northampton County Council that the attached term sheet shall be approved this 7th day of July 2022, and it's for the collective bargaining unit agreement with AFSCME.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns?
Just a comment.
Yes, Mr. Myers?
Reading this resolution, and I called earlier as the young lady was speaking about it, under the new article retention part C, it says that the per diem employee or employees not employed at the date of the approval of the contract are not eligible. So I think that was pretty self-explanatory. We are actually voting on it now that we didn't vote on it before. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Then I'm clear now. My head's straight. Thank you.
Mr. Cusick?
I was wondering if someone from the administration could explain the FMLA changes and how that affects employees, because that's been a sticking point for some time.
So, as you know, even pre-pandemic, we were running at 33% FMLA, and IFMLA was the particular driver of that problem on a monthly basis. So, we were starting to see a staffing problem even then. One of the things that we identified and bargained for at the table was to decouple the payment of sick time when taking IFMLA. Does that answer your question?
And so this would effectively decouple them.
Yes, it does. That language does do that.
Okay. And then just.
We got transparent out.
Go ahead.
Mr. Kusick.
No, just the other thing I wanted to point out, as Mr. Myers had indicated before, in the new language, it does indicate, as the young lady that was here before said, per diem employees' 4-day-a-month requirement will become a 6-day-a-month requirement. And this does include one weekend day as well as a major holiday. So we're adding that language, we're asking more of them. And then in new article Part C, we're saying that they're not eligible for the retention bonus. And I don't think that's right. I know there's give and take on these things, but I think it's unfortunate that those 14 individuals, that if that's accurate, that they were left out of the retention bonus while at the same time we're asking them to do more. But the wages, I think, 4.5, 4.5, and 2.5 for the other employees is good. I mean, it's not what inflation is, but that's one of the most generous contract terms as far as wage increases goes that I've seen here in a while. So, I realize there's give and take, but I think it's unfortunate that some employees got left out of a program that we didn't, that council did not intend with our previous resolution.
Mr. Gafredo?
Be careful.
I guess this question's for our solicitor. If we rejected this resolution, does this send it back to negotiations between the union and management?
There would be an altercation between the management, the administration, and the bargaining unit, correct?
Thank you.
Mr. Myers, do you have a question?
Not, I'm cleared.
Mr. Lott?
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Kusick. It is a shame that, but we're not at the bargaining table. And they belong to a union in a bargaining group, and they negotiate as a group. We don't know what was the union got for this, gave away. We're not privy to those conversations. I wish, I would love to get into the mind of the union how you cut out the 14 people, but there may be a very good, explanation why, or trade-off, and then as a union, you as a group, vote to support or not support. I mean, when you're part of a union, that's exactly what you're part of, a union. It's not an individual decision. So I would respect the right of the membership to their contract. If they didn't shut it down over these 14, I as a member may have been very concerned about why these 14, but I don't know those details. But they approved that contract. So out of respect for the union, and not being sitting in those bargaining talks, and I've had to make very difficult decisions that I knew it was hurting a small group of my members when I had to do this sort of thing. But sometimes when you're a union, you look at the big picture, you get what you can for the most of your members, and sometimes there is losers, but like the point I'm making is we aren't privy to those conversations, nor legally are we allowed to be privy. That is between the union and the administration. So, I think it's a very generous, and I'm glad to see it. I think they certainly deserve the raises and earned them, and I'm happy that these are probably some of the best raises they've gotten in the near future. That was just my thought. I'm certainly going to be supporting it. I wish they would have, thought. I agree with the woman. I didn't quite understand why they were cut out, but that is not for me to understand, quite frankly. Thank you.
Mr. Gafredo.
I respect everything you had to say, Mr. Lot, but at the end of the day, we did make our intent pretty clear. And I think this being slipped in, yeah, I understand how the union works and how the negotiations work, and that's not my position to say. But I do think the entire problem at Graysdale is that we are lacking employees, and this is our chance to rectify that. So in that instance, I'm going to be voting no on this resolution.
Mr. Heckman.
Yeah. I was a shop steward, and I also was in management, and so I got both sides when I negotiated. I was involved in negotiations, and it can be a trying situation at times. Usually, they always say a successful negotiation is when both sides walk away unhappy. I'm not going to say that should be put in Webster or anything, but that has often been said. I remember some heated negotiations and people walking out and back in. I personally, I guess like Mr. Lott, I understand where Mr. Gafredo is coming from. I mean, the problem we have, I think, though, is the way the charter is set up, and we certainly could vote no, and then it would go back and he'd do what he does or they wouldn't do. But I have a feeling they sat down, they negotiated this. I would myself have preferred that was the case. I mean, we're not talking about a lot of money with the money we've been throwing around. So, I mean, I don't know. And the way the charter's written, though, we have this power, but it's, it's, what did Franklin once say? Call a bull an ox. He loves the name, but he'd like to have what was taken from him. So, I mean, I guess we have this power, but at the same time, we're sort of at the end of the tube in the sense that, well, either we're going to say yes, and where we're saying go ahead, do it now, let's get this money out, or we're going to say no, and then the majority of their membership is going to be angry that we didn't move with it. I wasn't there, and that's how we're set up. So I'm leaning towards approving this, even though I do feel sympathy for the lady that came in and the others in that situation.
I hear what everybody's saying, and I feel really uncomfortable saying yes to this, given what we heard tonight. And I always think that we feel forced to say yes or no, but we do have the right to table and wait on something. And then maybe, you could always give something a week or two and see if it resolves, because, maybe Mr. McClure would go back and express, or maybe AFSCME will hear that we're 90% yes, except on this per diem thing. So again, I don't know. I've been part of a union. I know that people represent me, but at the end of the day, we're the ones that get to decide. So the piece that I'm sitting on is that we all sat here in good faith, and we all voted for these raises or these bonuses with the expectation that everybody there was going to get them. I didn't hear anybody up here say, except for per diem, we all said, let's give this money to these employees. Do I want to hold it up for 14 employees? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it just deserves one more round of discussion. So I'm just going to throw that out there as an alternative. Because I hate feeling like we have to be yes or we have to be no, and we have to do it right now because we just had a meeting. We are allowed the gift of time. So that's what I'm going to say. Yes, Ms. Zirinsky.
It's my understanding that we already voted on the contract and that these are just it's a term sheet, like a glossary. Like we're voting on the terminology.
Pretty much.
Am I correct?
The term sheet has changes.
And is that the terms of the contract or just?
Yes. If you look at, just pick one out, like Article 13 on sick leave. It changes Article 13.5 and it changes Article 13.8.
May I ask, Ms. Rinsky, I wanted to ask the solicitor a question. Are you pondering?
So I just want to try to get the understanding of what's happening. We're voting on changes that have been renegotiated to their contract.
Yes, correct. Yes.
Okay. I'm done.
Go ahead, Mr.
Within the constraints of management labor negotiations, would the executive, if he wishes, would the executive be able to explain to us why he felt that these shouldn't get it? I mean, that's his prerogative, or would he feel constrained by that relationship legally?
He is the chief administrative officer of county government. He certainly can be heard.
I don't know. I mean, Mr. McClure, is there anything you want to add? I mean, it's your discretion. You don't have to add anything.
Yeah, so what I would say about the reflection that you don't have to pass it tonight is they have rejected contracts twice. This would be a third time we were going back to them. And there's no guarantee that even if we were to relent on the per diem issue over these 14 employees, that they would actually pass the contract. And so when you approve it, we're prepared right now to go to payroll to put the retention money in. So they'll get their retention bonus in their next pay. They will also get their retro pay back to January 1st, I believe, in their next pay. And of course, they will all move up in the scale because, as Mr. Cusick rightly points out, it's the most generous contract that's ever been agreed to at arm's length in the county's history. So there's no guarantee that in the near future, even with these 14 people in the per diem being included, that the contract will pass, and then they could go for months, if not year or years, without the benefit of the retention bonus because they chose to have it included in the contract, and without benefit of the raise and the step increase. So that's the danger of not going ahead and passing it.
Mr. Gafredo?
Would you like to speak to, I guess that might be infringing on the CBA, but.
So I'm not going to talk about what did or didn't happen at the table. I personally was not at it, so I can't give firsthand renditions, although I was kept obviously in the loop of what was going back and forth. But generally speaking, the Graysdale administration had a number of issues on the table. Some of them you're aware of that caused the previous contract to be rejected. Calling in if you called out sick, calling in when you leave your house if you're not going to the doctor or the pharmacy. We took that out because they found that to be objectionable. We also took out a provision that we wanted to add that didn't include one of the benefits. Which one was it, Mary Lou? Personal time? Yes. So personal time now counts towards your 40, towards your 80. So your personal time, when you take personal time, it still counts so that it counts for your overtime. We wanted to take that out. They objected to that. We took it out for them. So there was a lot of management proposals that we removed in order to get to this place. So one might imagine that there were some management ideas like the one they agreed to with the IFMLA that management thought would be ultimately better for the functioning of the home. For example, what the home really needs is part-time employees. The home really needs part-time employees as opposed to, because part-time is so important to the efficient running of the home. So Dawn, our director of nursing, Dawn Twirs-Feldman, really relies on part-time employees to fill in the schedule, the so-called holes in the schedule. So we really want to encourage more part-time employees, including full-time employees, but we want part-time employees who can work those part-time hours so there's some certainty in the schedule. So that sort of gives you the broad sort of overview of how we arrived at the give and take in this process.
I appreciate that, Mr. McClure. That's helpful information.
and you can just, you'll be able to answer this easily. Passing this tonight, and we do amendments to contracts at different times for different reasons, it does not preclude in the future somebody coming to you and you sitting down and amending the contract with something else.
There are side agreements done all the time.
I thought, so I think that's important to remember too.
Any other comments or questions? Call for the vote.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mr. Lott?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni?
Yes.
Mr. Gofredo?
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 9-0.
Thank you. Is there any other new business to discuss this evening?
No.
Any council committee reports? Mr. Lott or Mr. Heckman, do you have council committee reports?
We had a Human Service Committee meeting. It was drug and alcohol regarding some money they're getting and, putting to good use. We all are aware of the concerns and issues with addiction. And also, we got, I would say, pretty good news regarding Graysdale in the sense of the our survey that came out and the Centers for Medicaid Services, the dreaded numbers we were expecting were bureaucratized. In other words, they turned into suggestions. I had a feeling that we weren't going to get a stamp saying you must do this or that. So they gave us their ideas, but that we fall under the guidelines where we don't have to make any major changes structurally at this point. And we did get a great, from our Director of Public Works, he gave us a report on 3 scenarios of changing, if we did change or do some work out at Graysdale, how it would affect census, cost, and I'm sure he would, I have the numbers, I wrote them down, but I'm sure they'll be in the minutes for the committee meeting. So it was a productive meeting. Also, Graysdale, you've since seen the numbers, our PPD? It looks good right now. So anyway, that's my report.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Lott.
Yeah, now that Mr. Heckman warmed me up, I'll take it from there.
Yeah.
We had an Economic Development Committee meeting today at 3:30. We discussed the American Rescue Plan funding for community stability projects. There was actually 3 of them. Habitat for Humanity, 11.5 acres in Forks Township. They're looking to do some affordable housing there. That was a $2 million. There was action on that. Western Area Food Bank, $300,000. Senior Home Maintenance Program, another $250,000. Those were all discussed tonight and approved at our council meeting. We also had Berks County Housing give a presentation. We are in the process of looking to join with them to create a housing project for Northampton County, that would partner with Berks County. I feel it was a very good presentation. Look forward to, hearing more from them. Discussions regarding the CDBG grants. We got a list of those grants. No action was taken on those, just kind of giving us the heads up. And that would be the Economic Development Committee meeting.
Thank you. Any other committee reports? Council liaison reports? Ms. Zirinsky?
Farmland Preservation did not meet this month of July. They plan to meet next month, but I did want to report on the airport board, the Lehigh Northampton Airport Authority. Mr. Heckman and I took a tour of the new TSA connector, and it's really coming along. It's on schedule to be completed on time by 2023. And also Braden Air Park has a new office, and that's on track to be completed, I think, by the end of the summer, which is really exciting. And there was one other thing. Yeah, we successfully voted on a bargaining agreement, which is always really important. We love our unions at the airport. So all these things are happening at the airport, and it's just really interesting time to be on the board.
Mr. Cusick?
Can I ask a follow-up question? We see a lot in the news about delays and cancellations. Is that a problem at ABE?
It hasn't been a problem. Actually, we've had, we have good passenger traffic. We're actually doing better than most airports our size. And we are definitely doing well in the revenue section. And the other thing that I wanted to mention about Braden Air Park was that we have a new flight school there, and that should be doing all right. It's supposed to be renewed in August. There's a new manager there, and so that should be renewed in August, hopefully.
Any other liaison reports? Council clerk report?
Nothing.
Solicitors report?
Nothing.
Ask for a motion to adjourn it. Anyone give me a motion? TG, any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.